I believe the Stacks ecosystem is going to heat up significantly, and a few days ago I posted a video going over some of the top DeFi apps. Now in this video, what I want to do is go over an ultimate airdrop guide where I can show you guys some of the top protocols and the different tasks you can do on them to hopefully qualify for their future airdrops. But yeah guys, without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing that you guys are going to need to get started is an actual Chrome extension wallet in order to operate in the Stacks ecosystem. Now I personally recommend the Leather wallet as being the main go-to wallet for Stacks, and I'll have all of the different links that I'm going to talk about in this video in the description for you guys to go to. Once you have the Leather wallet installed, it's pretty simple and easy to use like other wallets out there. Just make sure when you hit the receive button that you are receiving to the Stacks ecosystem rather than Bitcoin if you're doing these different tasks. Once you have the Leather wallet installed, it's pretty easy to get it funded. All you have to do is hit this receive button and then go to that Stacks address and copy it down here. Make sure that you are sending to the right ecosystem. You're going to need to fund this wallet using Stacks tokens, and those Stacks tokens you can buy on pretty much any centralized exchange. So make sure when you go to withdraw them that it's saying that it is on the Stacks chain and that you copy this Stacks address. If you don't want to use some sort of centralized exchange to buy your Stacks, I recommend something like RocketX Exchange, which once again I'll have a link in the description where you can go from Ethereum or all of these other networks into the Stacks token in the Stacks ecosystem, and I've personally used this website a decent amount and really like it. Once you have your Stacks, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to StackingDAO. It's really easy to actually stack your Stacks. All you have to do is hit Stack Stacks, which is a total tongue twister, and now you can select how much you want to actually stack, and then you'll get that synthetic version or that liquid version called ST Stacks that you can do a lot of different things with in the ecosystem, such as borrowing, adding to liquidity pools, and more that I'm about to show you guys. On the points tab, you can actually see how they're calculating points for their future airdrop. And the way they're doing it is for every 1 Stacks you're staking and getting that ST Stacks, you're going to get 1 point per day. But if you end up actually lending out that Stacks on a website such as Arkadiko that I'll show briefly, you're actually going to be able to get 1.5 points. And then you can actually earn the most amount of points, which is 2.5 if you're adding to the ST Stacks and Stacks liquidity pools. Now realize that if you have Stacks that you're pairing in the liquidity pool, that Stacks is not being stacked on this StackingDAO website, but they make up for that by having a 2.5x multiplier rather than just 1. Because if you think about it guys, if you just had all of your Stacks go into ST Stacks, you're getting 1 point a day, and if you had 1,000 Stacks, that's 1,000 points. But if you're doing the liquidity pool, you might only have 500 ST Stacks and 500 Stacks. So now you're only getting 500 points in that situation. But because they give a 2.5x point multiplier, you're actually getting more points by doing this, or roughly the same amount of points if you did the lending instead. You can also get additional points by referring other people. I'm going to have my referral link in the description if you want to do that and help support the channel, but this is another great way of getting additional points. And then they had their OG and Genesis NFTs. I haven't actually been able to find out where to buy them or how many additional points you're getting, but I believe this was airdropped to people that were on the StackingDAO site very early on. Now the big thing you're going to want to do with your ST Stacks, and why we're doing this first, is you want to use it in some of these different DeFi integrations in order to earn their airdrops as well. Now Arkadiko have already launched their token, so you're not going to be able to get their token by doing this, but you can still leverage your ST Stacks on there, lend it out, and get additional points, so I'll bring it up in this video. We then have Bitflow AMM, we have Velar, and we have Zest. All 3 of those are going to have a token in the future, and we can farm not only the StackingDAO token, but also some of these tokens in these other protocols. Bitflow also has a point system very similar to StackingDAO, where they explain how to actually get points. They say currently you can earn liquidity points through escrowing, aka stacking your LP tokens on the earn page of the app, and then you also get points for referrals, and additional DeFi activities are coming soon. So you can see here there's different price multipliers, such as the USD pools getting 1 point a day, the Stacks pools getting 2 points a day, and the BTC pools getting about 50,000 points per day. They give a couple examples of how it works here, and remember the Stacks pool gets 2 points per day. So in this example, if you have 100 of the Stacks and ST Stacks LP tokens and you stake it for the 30 cycles, which each cycle is 1 day, you'll earn 24,000 points. That's because you had 100 of these LP tokens, they're each getting you 2 points a day, and then you're able to times that over a 30-day period and then have a 4x 4x multiplier for this first 30-day cycle. They then give another example where if you did the same thing with USDA and USDT for 30 cycles, you would get 1 point because it is that USDA. You would times it by 30 days and then that 4x multiplier. Now, what's really interesting is if you did this for 90 days, each day being one cycle, you're earned 54,000 points, with the first month giving a 4x multiplier and then dropping down to 3x and then 2x. So in my opinion, based on this example here, you're better off doing 30-day escrows and continuing to get that 4x every single time rather than selecting a longer time period if you're someone that can keep up with this on a monthly basis. Now, you shouldn't actually have to do any swaps on the Bitflow site because you should now have your stacks as well as your ST stacks that you got from the StackingDAO. And now that you have both of these tokens, you're able to put it into a liquidity pool, which is the stacks and ST stacks pair. And by doing this liquidity pool, you're going to be getting that 2.5 points on the StackingDAO, and you're also going to be able to earn points on this site by using it in the escrow. In order to add liquidity, you just have to click on their stacks and ST stacks pool, and then you can add an equal amount of both stacks and ST stacks. Now, one thing to be aware of when you're doing these different transactions, guys, is that this stacks ecosystem or this stacks chain can take 30 to 40 minutes on average for transactions to go through, and a lot of times they're failing. Hopefully this Nakamoto upgrade fixes all of that next month, but for now this process can take a decent amount of time, and you have to pay attention to whether or not your transaction went through. But in this situation, I would do 5 stacks, for example, and then I would do another 5 ST stacks, and then I would hit confirm, and then after about 30-40 minutes, I'll now have my liquidity pool token. Once you have that liquidity pool token, you can now go to the Earn tab and go to the stacks and ST stacks pool, and now you can click on LP tokens, and then what you can do is you can actually scroll down and you can go to this escrow page, and what I would do is I would select 30 days, you'd put the amount of LP tokens that you want to put towards this, and remember, this is locking it up for those 30 days, but you're getting that 4x multiplier, and this is going to be what ends up getting you all the points for this Bitflow site. Make sure you don't use all of your stacks or ST stacks for this because we're going to need some of these tokens for the other protocols. Another thing that you have to know is you're going to want to go back in here on a monthly basis and repeat the process if you're doing those 30 days, which I recommend based on the example because you get a 4x multiplier rather than doing a longer cycle where you're getting a lower and lower multiplier. The next site that we can farm here is called Velar, and once again, we're going to need that stacks token. Now, Velar is building a whole entire perpetual decentralized exchange, and they actually raised over $3.5 million in their private rounds, so we know they're going to do an airdrop, and they have this points tab at the top for you to be able to track your points similar to other websites out there. Now, in order to earn points, you're going to need to add towards a liquidity pool, and then you're going to have to stake those LP tokens. Now, the one that I'm personally doing is the stacks and AEUSDC pool, and what we're going to need is to be able to sell some of our stacks, get that AEUSDC, and then add it together for that liquidity token. If you need that AEUSDC, you can go to their swap tab and you can swap some of your stacks over to this. Now, when you do this, you need to make sure you have the same amount of dollar value in stacks as well as that AEUSDC. So if I wanted to do a total of $250 worth of liquidity, I'm going to need to sell about $125 worth of the stacks token, get that AEUSDC, and then I'll be able to pair them together. And once again, the swap is probably going to take a good 30-40 minutes. Once you actually have both of those tokens, you'll be able to go to that pool and you're going to be able to add the liquidity automatically on both. And like I had said previously, you're going to need to be able to do the same amount of dollar value here and then hit confirm. Once that transaction confirms, you now have your LP tokens, but you're not done yet. You now actually have to go to the farm tab, go to that specific pair, and you'll be able to see your LP tokens that you're now able to stake. So as you see here, one of my previous transactions had failed, so now I have to do this again, but I have all these LP tokens that I can now add to this, and once I stake, I'll now be able to accumulate those Velar points. Another thing to note is that they recently added the Launchpad tab to their site, and they added their own project Velar. So potentially we might be able to participate in their IDO, and if we can do that, then there might be a pretty big opportunity in order to get into this sale, but I don't know all of the details as of yet. Another protocol that you can actually earn points on is called Zest, and this is a borrowing and lending protocol, and it's one of the protocols that still count towards StackingDAO's whole entire point system, which all of these projects so far are going to help you qualify for that airdrop in the future on StackingDAO. Now, it just so happens that Zest is experiencing issues right now, so I can't show show this in the video, but you're able to borrow and lend against different assets, and I'll show that in this tweet thread next. Now, they've had this whole entire whitelisting wallet address beta thing, and you can actually go to the borrow tab, put your address in, and then they'll go through and eventually whitelist you. It's also one of those situations where they just made a tweet saying that every whitelist has been approved now, so maybe you'll just be able to use this site without doing that. To kind of show you what they posted about 13 hours ago, as well as how to actually use this site, you can use your Stacks loans against your ST Stacks as collateral. And once again, it says that all whitelist requests are processed. So I'm thinking that anyone will be able to use this site going forward. And maybe that's why they're having infrastructure issues right now. This lending and borrowing site is like a lot of other protocols out there. It actually shows that you can get a 2.44% APY borrowing Stacks and then longing against your own Stacks tokens. So very interesting stuff. I haven't had the opportunity to play around with Zest as much, and it is relatively new, but this is another great option to do a couple loans just in order to qualify for additional points on StackingDAO, as well as hopefully qualify for this Zest protocol airdrop. One of the reasons I actually like farming these different airdrops on Stacks right now is I believe the amount of liquidity and the amount of people doing this compared to the potential market cap of these coins in the future is a really big disparity. Not a lot of people are really paying attention to the Stacks ecosystem yet. It's still very slow and very bogged down, but I think once that Nakamoto upgrade comes out, you're going to start seeing a lot more funds and a lot more money head into the Stacks ecosystem. So right now we're able to farm all these points when the total TVL might only be $20 million as compared to something that might have billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars farming these different tokens. So even if you don't have a lot of funds right now, you'll still be able to get a decent sized airdrop in my opinion, simply because I don't believe it's an oversaturated airdrop like a lot of the other airdrop farming guides out there. Another tip that I wanted to bring up in case you wanted to go this route is you can go on Arkadiko and you can actually borrow against your ST Stacks or your Stacks or your XBTC if you wanted to leverage your money even further. Now, they don't have any liquidity available, and a lot of times when they add liquidity to these vaults, it goes super fast, you're not even able to use it. But if this does open up again, you might want to be paying attention to the ST Stacks, because this is one of the sites that are going to qualify you for additional points on StackingDAO. Another interesting thing to note is that the StackingDAO is actually built by the Arkadiko team. Now, the token for Arkadiko is already out there. It's called Deco. I actually own some. I think it's going to do pretty well. Not financial advice in the longer run, especially if Stacks can gain some traction. But it's one of those situations where if you wanted to leverage even further, you can borrow against your own ST Stacks. And now all of a sudden you can use that ST Stacks on these other sites that I just said in a more leveraged fashion if you're okay with that risk and potential of getting liquidated, and at the same time still getting those points on StackingDAO. That pretty much summarizes the main airdrops that I would be paying attention to in the Stacks ecosystem. There are some other projects that are in their testnet and very early, but I didn't want to include them in the video because I don't know if they're going to end up being worth your time. Maybe in the future I'll do another updated video on some of these lesser known protocols, but for now, using the same amount of liquidity, you're able to hit a lot of these airdrops. Simply from getting that Stacks over into your Leather wallet and then stacking a portion of it, you're going to get that StackingDAO airdrop. Then all of a sudden you take a percentage of that Stacks as well as ST Stacks and you can put it on Bitflow, and then you're going to get that airdrop. And then you can do the same thing on Velar and add a little bit of liquidity on there, and then you can get that airdrop. And then you can either use Arkadiko or Zest protocol to leverage even further by borrowing and lending, and now all of a sudden you're going to be able to get that Zest airdrop, or if you just went on Arkadiko, you're still going to be able to get those additional points for StackingDAO. So you're able to hit all of these different airdrops with a very limited amount of capital and pretty quickly because they're all working together and interoperable. That pretty much wraps up the video. If you want additional help staying up to date on all these different airdrops, as well as Bitcoin, as well as Stacks, as well as Injective and Cardano and all these other chains, make sure to check out our Discord in the description, open up a support ticket and get a free trial pass. And we have all these different informations and plays and opportunities and calls in the Discord absolutely for free if you wanted to join in. But yeah, that wraps up the video. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and I'll catch y'all later.